Over the past 6 years, Fortnite Creative has gone from being a casual home for hide-and-seek maps and death runs to what is now a money-making machine for many developers. But how did we get here, and why are so many people upset with what it's become? Well, today, I've decided to try and answer these questions and break down the real problem with Fortnite Creative, as well as give my opinion on why I think the future of Fortnite Creative is brighter than you might think. But before we can dive into the divisive Fortnite metaverse where we find ourselves in today, I think it's important to know how Fortnite Creative even got started. Back in June of 2018, Epic Games released Fortnite Playground Mode, originally as an LTM. This early version of Playground Mode was as bare bones as you could get. Essentially just giving players and a few of their friends their own version of the Fortnite island to run around on. And what exactly did players do with all this space? Well, they mostly built giant ramps and phallically shaped structures, but occasionally people like Laserbeam would actually make some decent content out of it. And luckily for him, after briefly removing the mode due to some server issues, Epic decided to keep Playground Mode around, and even updated it with a few more options for players to change their map making and gameplay settings. But Playground Mode was just a testing ground for what Epic was really cooking up, because just 6 months later, on December 6th, 2018, they released Fortnite Creative. This new mode would finally give players a seemingly endless toolbox from which they could build nearly any map they could dream, and they just built giant dicks. Of course, yeah. But some people were actually making the most of this new mode and creating some pretty cool things. Mazes, death runs, obstacle courses, hide and seek maps, people were going crazy for it, especially the content creators.
Nailed it. Whoops! Oh! Oh my god! Wait, what'd you have to do? Oh my god! No!
Josh.
I'm terrified.
Much like Gary's mod before it, its popularity and growth was heavily rooted in the online personalities that grew around it. With Creative Mode becoming the new fan favorite, it was time for Playground Mode to get an upgrade. So on December 18th, 2019, Battle Labs would officially replace Playground Mode, with a description of the new mode reading, "Jump into your own Battle Royale island and set the rules. Select your favorite LTM loot pools, set up combat scenarios with the new bot grenades, and create your own mode by setting options like gravity and fall damage. Fill your game with up to 15 friends on your own island, or matchmake with default options in public Battle Lab." Unfortunately though, Battle Labs didn't make much of an impact on the community in the long run. It mostly sat in this awkward zone between Creative Mode and regular Battle Royale until eventually the full Battle Royale map became available in Creative Mode, which made Battle Labs entirely obsolete. So come December 4th, 2022, with the start of Chapter 4 Season 1, players would jump on to find this mode officially removed. By the end of 2022 though, Fortnite Creative had already been around for 4 years and players were itching for something new. The mode had helped foster the growth of some seriously determined map designers that, after several years, had finally reached their limit of what could be done with the current Fortnite Creative tools. But luckily, Epic Games had been teasing that the next big jump for not only Creative Mode, but the entirety of Fortnite as a whole was finally around the corner. On March 22nd, 2023, Unreal Engine for Fortnite was released to the public. Also known to some as Creative 2.0, UEFN is essentially just the Unreal Engine software repackaged neatly for Fortnite creators, giving them access to tools such as Verse, Niagara, and the Fab Store in which they could buy and sell their own 3D assets. After a flashy demo, fans were given access to a number of pre-made maps to explore that helped show off what was truly possible with these new tools. And if you were anything like me, you were fully ready to jump into an all-new Fortnite experience. But now, over a year later, Fortnite doesn't exactly feel like a drastically different game like many of us expected. So, what happened? Well, I'm going to break this down into 3 different issues, starting with... Despite how approachable Epic Games made this new Fortnite-focused version of Unreal Engine seem, it is nothing like building in Creative Mode. Far too many people saw all this extra fluff on the side of the screen during the demo and thought, all that'll just be reduced to some simple menus I can scroll through on my controller later. No, if that's what you want, UEFN is not for you, and that's fine. They've done a great job at bringing a number of new devices and features into Fortnite Creative Mode that allow you to still create incredible things we could only dream of doing in Fortnite before. But if you really want to dive into the serious stuff, you're gonna have to save up your allowance or start hustling on a local street corner because a decent PC is the only way you're gonna be able to do it. On top of that, you're gonna have to learn the program. Again, UEFN is not Creative Mode. It is a program originally designed to make entire games and movies. People take full college courses and study for years to become experts in Unreal Engine because it's a powerful industry-wide tool. And Epic Games did an amazing job taking that program and repackaging it for Fortnite creators without cutting much at all. Unfortunately, this does mean that it's not accessible to everyone, either because they can't afford to get a PC that can run it or because they simply don't have the time or patience to learn the program. In my opinion, this is an unavoidable casualty of progress. Much like video game developers eventually have to stop making games for previous generation consoles once the limitations become too difficult to balance, so too did Epic have to make a decision to divide its creative developers. In short, this all means that less people have access to create stuff like this than you might think. But before we wrap up our conversation on the UEFN program itself, I think I'd be doing a disservice to every Fortnite map maker by not mentioning the anxiety-inducing fear that comes with every weekly update. If you've attempted to make any map that has even the slightest bit of complexity to it, such as creating a long chain of devices or a detailed animation sequence, then you've probably had the experience of jumping on after an update to see that none of that works anymore. Yep, hours or even days worth of work are gone because a random update broke something and you have no idea where to even begin to fix it. I've talked with a number of Fortnite map developers who've lamented over the ridiculous amount of time they spend simply trying to maintain their maps due to this issue. Then you factor in having to keep up with things like items being vaulted, added, or changed fairly often, and you can see why many map developers opt for simpler map designs. I think an important step towards solving any problem is to take a closer look at the people who are complaining about it in the first place. In this case, it's you, Nick, you piece of shit. But let's go easy on Nick for a second because he's not the only one. Many other players have shared their similar complaints with the lack of creativity in map designs. As I mentioned before, when UEFN was first announced to us, we were shown creative maps that truly looked like nothing we'd ever seen in Fortnite until then. But in reality, how many players actually wanted to be whisked away into a mystical dragon boss fight or jump into a Call of Duty inspired battlefield? For the better part of its existence, Fortnite has been widely known exclusively as a battle royale style multiplayer shooter. This mode has been the backbone of the game, which despite its ups and downs, is still pulling in millions of players rather consistently, especially since the introduction of zero builds back in Chapter 3. So when you're considering what type of creative map to design, you'd be crazy to entirely ignore that player base. Those players likely want a creative map that is similar to what they already know and play regularly. So if you actually want your map to get played, your safest bet is to make a map that would appeal to them. Just like movie studios are hesitant to invest into any script that doesn't scream sold out opening weekend, so too are creative designers worried about potential resources they're investing into a map that may never get played. Going with a safe choice mitigates the risk of failure. Hence why we have 12 Fast and Furious movies. Are they all good? No. But do people keep watching them? Sadly, yes. As long as thousands of players keep flocking to these same types of maps every day, why would people stop trying to make them? You might argue, as I've done before, that it's a waste of time to make another red versus blue map because there's only so much left you can reinvent to make yours different. But for those designers that are actually putting in the effort, they understand that sometimes it's the small things that can push your map above the rest. I don't think most players remember who published the very first red versus blue map in Fortnite, but I'd argue that most probably agree that Typical Gamer and his team have created the best we've seen so far, and his map came out long after many were already saying there was nothing left to do with that concept. Ultimately, as long as players keep eating it up, there'll always be a race to feed it to them. And while some are keen to be the winners, others are just happy to be part of the race. So, like it or not, these maps are here to stay. They just might not be for you. So, how are you supposed to find the maps that are for you? If you stuck around for this long, I really appreciate it because honestly, this is the part of the video I was most excited to talk about. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Any support for the channel goes a very long way. Anyway, let's talk about the algorithm. If you don't know what an algorithm is, it's essentially a set of rules or guidelines a computer is taught to follow in order to achieve a specific goal. In our case, the goal is to display a selection of Fortnite creative maps that you actually want to play. Easy, right?
It's false. No way. Not this time.
Here's the problem. Let's say the algorithm simply looked at what you've recently played and spit back out maps that match that. Well, in order to do that, every map would need keywords that the algorithm could look for and then only give you maps that match keywords in ones you've already played. Oh look, we already have that. Except, what qualifies as a party game? Or a moving game? And wouldn't most of these maps fall under the tag of shooter? These are all different tags a map developer can add to their games, but ultimately, their definitions are left up to interpretation. If I'm in the mood for a platform game because I just played Super Brick Bros the other day, and the algorithm serves me up Obi But You're on a Bike HD because it has the platformer tag on it, I'm gonna be a bit disappointed. Sure, there are platforms in this map, but is it the kind of platformer that I had in mind? No. But to someone else, it might totally make sense to fit this into the platformer category. This same issue can be applied to almost every keyword available. So if we've determined that relying on keywords alone can't make for a reliable algorithm, what's the next step? Well, what if we factored in the popularity of a map based on the number of people that have played it? Well, this would obviously put the brand new maps in a bit of a pickle because they're of course starting with 0 players. So how do we compensate for that? Well, we could use existing data on previous similar maps that share the same tags and keywords and then extrapolate from that how many players we think will play this new map and suggest it to people accordingly. Great idea! Except what stops me from looking at the most popular maps and copying almost their exact tags and keywords even if they don't match my map just to fool the system. If the biggest factor for getting the algorithm to promote your map is how many people simply clicked into your map, then clickbait becomes king. So obviously, that's not going to work. Well, what's the next step then? How about we also track the amount of time someone plays a specific map? If someone spends a lot of time on a map, then surely they must be enjoying it more, right? Let's have the algorithm prioritize maps with long playtimes. But what about simple story-based maps, puzzle games, horror games? These are all maps that most people will only play once and won't return to, even if they thought they were great. This of course means low playtime. So what maps come out on top with this new algorithm? Farming simulators, endless death runs, tycoon games, any game that can give you just a little consistent drip of dopamine to keep you playing for as long as possible, even if you're not really doing a whole lot in the process. This also includes locking things like XP, weapons, or entire chunks of your map behind arbitrary playtime requirements in order to appease the algorithm. So it seems like this isn't going to work either. So what exactly is the solution to a perfect algorithm? Well, sadly, there isn't one. But if we want an example of one that's very close, then we need to look at YouTube and how its algorithm evolved to get us to where we're at today. I'm only going to briefly touch on this topic, but if you really want a great dive into the subject, I'll link a video in the description for you to check out from Answer in Progress that covers it beautifully. Please go check it out after this video, especially if you weren't even on YouTube during the early years, because originally, the YouTube homepage was curated by an actual moderator. Some random guy or gal watched through random slop that people were uploading every day and personally decided what was going to be at the top of that page. But of course, as YouTube began to grow, this curated homepage concept became impossible to keep up with, on top of limiting the audiences they could actually connect with. So they also tried adding in more automated things like a most liked tab or most viewed tab, but these had the similar issues that we discussed previously. The next step was starting work on a true algorithm that could learn from viewers and compile a perfectly curated homepage. This took them decades and quite literally billions of dollars to figure out. And still, there will be times where I'll watch a single lo-fi hip-hop video while I'm working and suddenly my entire homepage becomes only that.
Okay, how about, you'd probably love that video you already watched about the door hinge. Why would I watch that again?
But it's still come a very long way. And that's what I want you to get out of this. Despite how much money and manpower Epic has behind this game, ultimately, Fortnite Creative is still young. So what's the ultimate solution here? Time and patience. I know that can be a lot to ask for in a medium where seemingly hundreds of different titles are competing for your attention every day. But if you want to see a better, brighter future for Fortnite Creative, time and patience are key. Over time, trends will come and go, the algorithm will become more refined, the tools will become more accessible, and with your continued support, the creators you love can thrive and grow in this space. In the meantime, share your constructive feedback with creators. Most of them have social pages that they encourage people to give them feedback on. When you find a map you love, tell everyone about it. Even if it doesn't end up being the next big thing, your playtime may very well give the creator some insight into how they can improve their next map. But sometimes people are just out here to create chaos, and that's fine too. Much like YouTube, if Fortnite Creative is going to succeed in the long run, we need to be open-minded to even the wildest of ideas, because there's an audience out there for every piece of content. It just might not be for you. Thank you all for checking out this video. I had a lot of fun diving into this topic as it's one that I see so many people discussing in the comments of my other videos. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe, and maybe share with a friend who's getting into map creation. Anyway, bye.